Hey there everyone, and welcome to Corey Loses, where today we're doing a video that's quite overdue. So when we hit 10,000 subscribers, I said that I'd do an AMA, and I put out a thread asking for the questions, and I put out even a video where I just said ask questions in the comments, and then I got all the questions together, and I never actually did the video. I was basically waiting till I got a camera, like the one I'm using right now. But then when I got the camera, that was like 2 months ago, which was already several months late. And that's when all the stuff with my mom started really going downhill. So here we are now. I'm going to finally answer the questions. These are in no particular order. It's just whatever when I opened in my image browser thing. We're going to go from there. I'll have them down right below me there. And they're questions about Thrawn's Revenge, about myself, about the channel, just whatever people felt like asking. There were one or two that were a bit more time sensitive. So were only really relevant when they were asked, so I apologize to those people. Those are the only ones that I haven't included. So our first question comes from Haster, the King in Yellow, who says, "Congrats, buddy." Thank you. And my question: how did you find / establish the original crew? So he's asking about the original team for Thrawn's Revenge here. Basically, the way I started Thrawn's Revenge, there used to be a mod called Legacy of War, which was started before Empire at War was released. And I joined the forums for that, I think Christmas-ish in 2005, because EAW was released in 2006. So after the game released in 2006, I was on that forum, and this was before Forces of Corruption, so Thrawn wasn't a hero yet. So I posted about wanting to put Thrawn in as a hero, and then a few other people got into contact with me from that. This was around the time that Evil Jedi free-released all his Warlords models. So a guy named Videotech contacted me saying he wanted to make a mod putting in all of the Warlords models, and we started talking about that, which is kind of ironic because I think at this point we're like the only mod that doesn't use Warlords models. We basically make all of our own stuff except for a few exceptions. But we were me and Videotech were talking, and neither of us felt like we really knew enough about Star Wars to run it, so we got another guy called Zur on board, and basically the three of us were going to run it as a team, but those two would fight a lot, and then Videotech left at the end of the summer because I think he was starting college or something, so Zur and I kept running it, and then eventually it was just me running it, and he was like sort of second in command, but there were a few people that came in from the Legacy of War forums, Grand Admiral Makati and Red Commodore. So we all started working together on that. Then Code User came in a couple of months in, and he's still with the team. A lot of these people, basically everyone who's on the team at any point, I'm still sort of in contact with or have been recently. I guess recently means the last few years, but yeah, so Code User joined, he's still on the team. Slorny joined as one of our original testers. He used to be an active member on our forums, then he became a tester, and then from there he got promoted up through the team. He's an XML coder, and he's still on the team. But that was really the main original grouping. It was Zur, myself, Code User, Slorny, Red Commodore, and Grand Admiral Makati, which he went by Ben later, but there were a few other people that were on the team around that time who didn't stick around as long. There's Creakin and Cody, who were our original 3D modelers, who were really good. But yeah, so we've probably had 40 to 50 different people on the team throughout the years. I've thought about actually doing a video where I talk more just about kind of the history of Thrawn's Revenge, more for my own entertainment. I don't know if anyone's actually interested in that, but I just did it for like 3.5 minutes. Anyways, so that's roughly how the mod started, how we got the original people together. Like I said, Code User and Sloney are still on the team. I talked to the other ones not too long ago. Zur kind of disappeared, which, I don't know, kind of weird. Whatever. Next question. Hexadus Scar asks, how good are you at games? Depends on the game. There actually are some games that I am okay at, but generally a lot of the games I play a lot were games that my friends were playing, because I mostly enjoy actually playing with other people. That's kind of how I got into doing this, because there were a bunch of single player games that I really wanted to play, but then if I wasn't doing it with someone, it wasn't as entertaining for me. So when I started like recording it and posting it, it's sort of like playing a single player game but with a bunch of people, and it made it I was able to get through stuff a lot more easily. Because like what would happen before is that I'd get like for example, Oblivion. I started Oblivion. I'd play like religiously for the better part of a month, but then I'd fall off for a week, and I'd try to go back to it, and I'd completely forget what I was doing. So there were just a bunch of games that are sitting there half completed or a quarter completed, like Mass Effect 1 I did that with, Oblivion I did that with, Skyrim I did that with, and the channel became kind of a way for me to focus on actually doing stuff, which this has nothing to do with the question of how good I am at them, but because I wasn't really staying with anything for long enough to get good, I wasn't good at most of them. But there were some games like League of Legends and Halo 3 that I'd play a lot with my friends, and I got decently good at those. I guess I'd probably say the only game that I'm actually good at right now would probably be League of Legends, and I'm not like super good, I'm just like passably good. But yeah, so not very to average. Next question, also from Hexodus. Where do you think you'd be if you hadn't stayed with modding? Is the first one there. Why don't you like Terra? What's your favorite Pokemon game? And how long do you plan on modding? So I'll sort of answer the first two together there. Where would you be if you hadn't stayed with modding? And how long do you plan on modding? I think if I hadn't started modding, I don't think there's much of a chance that I'd be doing this right now. Because it was sort of like through modding that I got into doing YouTube, or not sort of, it was entirely through modding that I got into doing the YouTube stuff. So I don't know that I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be doing this right now. Not that I wouldn't want to, I just wouldn't, like, having the mod and all that was a good way to get in and still have like some sort of starting off point. I don't think it would have really gotten anywhere if I had, it would be a hobby more than anything if I hadn't. So that would probably mean that I have a regular job still, and I'd probably be at the place I was with before I started doing this full time. So I'd probably be working for the government. I might have gone and finished my master's, or gone and done, or started I didn't start my master's. I was working on applications, and I was also thinking about going into computer programming in college before my mom got sick. So presumably that would have happened whether I was modding or not. So I guess the further education was probably not going to happen regardless. But I did do my degree, and a lot of that was, I did history and political science, so I probably would have ended up working in the government still. How long do I plan on modding? Basically, I think as long as I'm doing this as my job, so as long as I'm working on YouTube stuff as my job, it's really easy to fit in the time for modding because it all works so well together. Like the YouTube stuff and the modding stuff are technically separate, but it synergizes really well. And even just the time that I don't have to spend commuting anymore, it used to be up to like hour and a half, 2 hours a day that I'd usually spend going between home and work. And just that time spent on modding gets a lot done. So as long as I'm doing this, I plan to be modding. Even if I wasn't doing this, I'd try to be modding for as long as I can. But it's always hard to say because there's just so many factors that go into that. Why don't you like Terra? So Terra is a character in Pokemon Reborn, which is a game that we did a Let's Play of, or are doing a Let's Play of. It's released episodically. And Terra is a horrible, horrible character. Everything is in lead speak, and it makes me want to punch my brains out. My brains out. It's okay if it's directed at me. What is your favorite Pokemon game? Probably Pokemon Reborn, actually. It's my favorite one to go back and revisit, like with that Let's Play. It actually has it has an actual story, which is really lacking from regular Pokemon games. Like, I enjoy the basic mechanics of the Pokemon games, but I just feel like I'm not getting anything done, and it's just I don't know what my goal is when I'm playing it. And with Reborn, that kind of, there's a bit more direction to it, so I don't get lost in the grinding. Next question. Isaac asks, how's your family doing? Is everything better now? How do you like your new home? So So yeah, this was 5 years or 5 months ago that this was asked. These were all asked. Um, but yeah, so since these videos asking for these questions have come out, obviously my mom died last month. My family, other than, other than her, are doing okay with it. I think I'm doing all right. Uh, it's a lot to get used to. Like, it wasn't a shock. There was nothing surprising about the fact that she died, or she died when she did. She was very clearly going downhill from the time that I left. Because I moved out. I was staying with my parents from last January to this July. Because my dad couldn't go to work if my mom was home sick alone, so I was able to stay with them. And that's a big part of also how I got into doing the channel as a full-time job, because this was a way for me to at least make some money while being able to stay there and allowing my dad to go to work, make sure that someone was home with my mom when she needed it. So there is a really big adjustment there of just my mom and I were really close, and especially for the last 2 years, I was home every day with her, so I'd spend most of every day talking to her. So it's there's still a few times a day where I'm like, something will happen. I'm like, oh, I gotta text mom about that. I'm like, oh wait, no, you can't do that. But yeah, so that's definitely an adjustment. But I think overall we're all doing pretty well with it. I was gone last week for the funeral, which wasn't really a funeral. My mom wanted a party, so we rented out a venue at a winery, and there were like 450 people that came throughout the night. So that was really nice. But yeah, so we're adjusting. The second part is, how do you like your new home? So like I said, I moved in July, and I like it. You can see here, it's nice. There was a whole cockroach issue, which seems to be kind of ongoing. But considering the amount I pay for rent in this part of the city, I went basically as cheap as I reasonably could, because I couldn't really afford to do more. So cockroaches aside, it's great. Um, but I used to live here. There's a couple buildings here, and I used to live in one of the other ones before I moved down with my parents. And then when I moved back up, I moved back to the same company because I sort of had an idea of what the buildings were like. I never had any issues in the other one. And then I showed up here, and there were cockroaches. So that was fun. But yeah, so next question is, Jacob says, congratulations, thank you. My question is, what is your least favorite faction in Thrawn's Revenge? I'm going to assume you're talking about playable factions here, because otherwise it gets a little too easy. I just say like the minor warlords or something. Going by 2.2, I'd say it's the Yavitha, Duskin League. They're just... Is it? Yeah, I'd say that. There's not a lot to work with them. They're not particularly interesting. Like, if you want a xenophobic warrior species in Star Wars, there's at least a few other options, even just in that time period, that are better, like Yuzan Vong, Siruvi. I mean, those are the big two. So the Avitha don't really offer a lot. They're like an Imperial clone that aren't Imperials and are just kind of boring. So that's probably my answer. And they're also getting removed. So, but that's there's other reasons for that we'll probably go into when we do another news post. Next question. Jay asks, are you actually doing Revan's Revenge? You previously replied to a comment saying something suggestive of that, and it's been bothering me for a while. And I guess it's been bothering you for another 5 months, so sorry about that. Are we doing... No comment. Okay, so I've had my fun with it. So Revan's Revenge, I put out a video on April Fool's Day, which was a video in Empire at War where I used a bunch of assets from Ages of Star Wars, which is another old EAW mod that I used to work on with Code User, Kalo, Wildcat. A lot of us that are on Thrawn's Revenge, or were on Thrawn's Revenge, were also on Ages of Star Wars, so there's probably like 75% overlap between the teams. So I gathered together a bunch of those assets from the old AOSW version. I put them in EAW. I recorded a trailer, and I called it Revan's Revenge. And there's been a channel in the Discord for it for the last, how many months is that? Like 7 months, I guess. So it is technically not a mod right now. The 100% real talk is that given infinite time and resources, I would love to do it. It's the mod I would most like to make aside from what we're doing right now. However, we are not currently making it. If we were ever done with ICW or Fall of the Republic or something, it'd be more likely. Possibly even as a mod for Sins before something for EAW. But basically, it's probably my favorite era in Star Wars. But there's a lot of... It's not the most developed in terms of what you'd be able to use. And we're already working on so much. So it's difficult in basically all those respects. So it is not currently being made. It is something that I have a lot of notes on. So I have a lot of plans if it ever were to be made. And given, again, enough people who were working on the mod and enough progress on the other parts of the mods, not something I would be opposed to doing. So there you go. There's the real talk for the video. I don't know that anyone's going to be watching this still 16 minutes in, but that's the answer. Oh, we're like 3 questions into. Will Zero Command ever be a playable faction in Thrawn's Revenge? Jonas asks. No. So unfortunately, we've actually had to remove them as even a non-playable faction. What we've had to do is roll them into the minor non-playable warlords. Basically, EAW unfortunately has a few hard-coded limits. There was one that we knew about before 2.2, which was that if you have 22 factions in it, I think it's 22, not 100% sure. I think it's 22. If you have 22 factions coded, the game will crash. And we made all of our plans based around that. However, what we learned with 2.2.5, or 2. One of the patches, was that the reason the Yavitha used to cause crashes when they got invaded is because any faction in the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, or 21st slot, they have a chance to make the game crash when they get invaded. So the Mandalorians can also do it, but they only control one planet in the mod, and they're in like 3 GCs, so we left it for now. But we basically had to adjust all of our plans from using the 21 faction slots to using the 16 that work, and then we can sort of play around with the next 2 with some other stuff for functionality purposes that allows us to kind of take advantage of it, but not really. So Zero Command had to be rolled into that general non-playable faction, general independent forces faction, which we're also doing with the Yavitha. So unfortunately, we can never make Zero Command playable. There are other factions we intend to make playable. Basically, the criteria we are trying to use is which factions can best use the remaining slots we have, and that's kind of the basis we're making those decisions on. So, next question. Master Chief Keef of Gondor. What are some of your favorite ships in Star Wars? What is your favorite character and movie in Star Wars? Some of my favorite ships. I really like assault frigates. I like Nebulon Ps. Basically, that kind of ship design I've always found kind of more interesting than the Imperial Triangle ship stuff, which I don't dislike. It's just not my favorite. Strike cruisers I liked for some reason. It's a really weird, ugly design that's never really fleshed out very well. But I think my overall favorite ships tend to be CIS ships, like the Recusant and the Providence are probably my 2 favorite. If I had to nail it down. My answer to this would probably change every week, but that's roughly it. What's your favorite character and movie? For the character part, Obi-Wan? I think it's probably Obi-Wan. Like, I like the original trilogy more than the prequels, but I feel like Obi-Wan is probably my favorite character in the movies. And my favorite movie, I've thought about making a video doing my personal rankings of the Star Wars movies. That always gets into a weird situation. I definitely like Rogue One a lot more than most people. It's close to Empire Strikes Back for me, partially because I do think Battle of Scarif is one of the most visually interesting, probably the most visually interesting battle we've had in a Star Wars movie. And that's a big part of what I go to Star Wars movies for. So like plot-wise, I do think Empire Strikes Back is probably the best, and then A New Hope is probably after that. But if I were to look at it as like a whole thing, then I think a lot of the set pieces in Rogue One possibly put it above A New Hope for me, and even close to Empire Strikes Back. But yeah, so that'd be something I'd have to put together in another video. And I think there's another question about something similar. Next thing, Kumar asks, where do you see the channel going in the long term? So I really like this job. I'd love to be able to keep doing this job as long as possible. Like I was saying earlier, a big part of what made me get to where I am with the channel is that it was something that let me be with my family and sort of work around my own hours, work from home, which is no longer the case. So I thought I'd be reevaluating my employment situation after my mom had died. But the channel's in a position where it is able to support me financially. So I want to put as much as I can into growing it as much as I can, and then continuing to do this as much as I can for as long as I can. So I would like to expand into certain other, not really expand into other stuff, but like start emphasizing some other stuff on the channel as well. Like Empire War is not going anywhere, obviously. I'm still going to be working on Thrawn's Revenge. I still really enjoy playing the game. But I'd like to have it so that there were like 4 days a week where I do an EAW video, and then maybe one stream per week that's EAW related, but have like the videos be a little bit longer, because the viewer base for that is there, and they know what they want. So that I feel like can safely be a bit longer. But then I also want to be able to like cover other games that I enjoy, or even do videos talking about different topics within gaming or Star Wars. I don't think I'd necessarily get into lore videos. I don't think I'm the right guy for that. There are a lot of lore videos out there already, but I do think that coming from modding for so long, I have kind of a niche perspective that, and I guess even a more niche personality and style of doing videos. So I'd like to be able to expand on that. I think I talked in a recent video about wanting to do a video on like the topic of DLC and my opinions on that, where I think it's done okay, where I think it's done poorly, where it all came from. So topical videos like that, let's plays of more various games, other Star Wars games, other non-Star Wars games, and like fantasy and sci-fi, since I think those are probably what I enjoy most. But while still keeping Star Wars and more generally an Empire War as a big part of it, and just sort of seeing where we can go from there. Because I don't think I'd ever be able to get to like Shaq size or Eckhart's Ladder size, but I'd like to be able to do this as my job for as long as it's sustainable. Really is what that does. And if I had to get another job, I'd try to do this for as long as possible as a hobby. It would probably mean I'm not doing the same amount of videos, but I'd try to keep it going for as long as I can. Next question. Light DNS, congratulations. Thank you. My question is, will you be creating any other mods for Star Wars Empire War or any other game? I kind of touched on this with the Revan's Revenge question. The team has a ton of stuff we're already doing with Imperial Civil War, Ascendancy, and Fall of the Republic, to the point that sometimes one will suffer for a while because of the other ones, and I don't particularly like that. So, well, it's not impossible that I'd start another mod, or I'd work on another mod, or the team more broadly would work on another mod. I think until we're done, at least one, if not two, of our current projects, it's not likely we'd start another. We were originally going to do like ship packs for Stellaris, but other people got to that pretty fast. I figured because we had the assets, we'd probably do it, but then other people started releasing, so we didn't really need to. And that was one area where I thought I might get involved in, and maybe in the future, who knows. But it's kind of annoying to mod Stellaris because like every update will completely break most things, which isn't as big a problem if you're doing ship packs. But yeah, so I have sent some of our assets to Fallen Republic, which is the Star Wars mod that's being made. So there is going to be some Thrawn's Revenge stuff out there for Stellaris at some point. But in terms of us doing anything else, again, it would be after we're done something we're already working on. and there'd have to be like an engine or a project we really want to do. We have talked about indie game stuff before, but that's a whole other can of worms. Melon asked, what is an embarrassing moment you had as a child, or silly, or just funny? I was trying to think about this for a while, whether there was anything that was like worth telling, because I had like the standard stuff, like calling your teacher mom or something. But I was going through our like my mom gave me and my sister our like baby boxes, which it just has. I think it's a standard thing to have, but it's like there's some clothes from when we were a baby. There's some like kinder or homework from preschool, whatever. And there is I'm gonna try to include this in the video. I might not figure out a decent way, but I came across a slip from the hospital. So one time when I think I would have been like I think I was 4. I climbed up my dresser and I jumped off my dresser trying to reach my bed, trying to figure out if I could fly or not. And I couldn't. So I have this slip from the hospital of like a head warning or a head injury warning, and just they wrote in the corner, "Tried to fly!" exclamation mark. Well, that was pretty embarrassing. I'll try to think of some other ones if I ever do this again. If anyone asks this again, but I think that's the one I'm going with for this time. I tried to fly off my dresser. I don't know. Is that embarrassing or is that just stupid? I think it's probably just stupid. But next up, Play in the Background says, "Why do you like EAW so much?" I just like strategy games in general. EAW has fairly straightforward mechanics, but it's just something I've been involved with for so long that I know really well. So I really enjoy working on it. And I don't know, it's just something I'm really familiar. I don't get tired of stuff very easily, I guess. So once I'm familiar and comfortable with a game, I'm fine with playing it into way beyond what's reasonable. Unless I fall off, like I was talking about earlier with like Oblivion and Skyrim and stuff. Because EAW is kind of a hard game for you to get like lost in that. I guess that's part of why I stuck with it for so long. Because if I was like doing a Galactic Conquest and then I stopped, I wouldn't come back and be like, "Oh, I need to remember where I was." I'd just be like, "Okay, starting over." And I think that's a big part of it. But it's like it's the last Star Wars strategy game that came out, and I obviously really like Star Wars, so that's a big factor too. But I think that's basically it. Play in the Background is also asking, what do you do professionally? So this, as I was talking about earlier, this is my job. YouTube. Vans asks, are you a robot? Well, now that I have a camera, I guess you can see that I at least am not entirely a robot. I'm at least an android. You look under my skin, it's all just circuitry and wires. It's a Big Brother reference. Next up, TJ True Justice asks, where have you worked previously, what positions, and for how long? So I'm going to assume this isn't a way to just steal my identity. I guess my first job was working for my parents. They ran a business doing like custom metal fabrication. Just a small business. It was just the two of them for a while. Then my brother-in-law worked for them, and I think they had over the course of the time they were running it. I think there were 2 other employees they had, but so it was just a small operation. But it got pretty far. Like my mom did the recycling programs for different cities. So there were a few cities where if you're walking around and you see the trash cans, my parents made those. I think they did like Calgary, Niagara. There are a few cities in the United States that did it. And they also, the other big thing they did were doing like beverage carts at casinos and just any sort of metal fabrication thing. But recycling programs was a big thing my mom was passionate about, and the casino beverage carts were another thing they did rather commonly. So that's the things where like the people are pushing around with like coffee and drinks and everything. So I'd work for them in the summer sometimes, or whenever they got really busy. So it wasn't like an official full-time job, but this was when I was in high school for the most part, throughout high school. So I'd help take stuff apart. I did a little bit of welding. I did a little bit of metal work. It was basically whatever needed to be done, I would help out with. But then my first job for anyone else was after my first year in university. So I went in the summer and I worked at a Tim Hortons in Ottawa. I only worked there for, I think I was only there for like 3 months before school started up again. And I realized that my grades were around the point where I was almost able to keep my entry scholarship. Because I think you needed like an 8.5 GPA at least to keep it. And when I was working, I was hovering around an 8.4. When I wasn't working, I would be at least higher than the average you needed. So I was quickly like, I'm losing more money from my scholarship than I'm actually making by working here while I'm in school. So I was only there for like 3 months. Then my next job would have been when I worked for McDonald's. So I finished my program, and then as a fresh graduate of a history and poli-sci degree, I went and worked at McDonald's for I think September 2014 up until April of 2016. So I worked in the kitchen there for that almost a year and a half, 2 years. I hated that job so much. That place was awful. Just awful. The owner was a complete idiot. Some of the managers I really liked, but some of the managers were just complete idiots. And no one wanted to be a manager there, so I think they offered the promotion to basically everyone, but we all turned it down. There was one point when I worked there, I think for most of the time I was working there was like 5 managers, and it's a 24-hour store. But then the November before I quit, of those 5, 3 quit in 1 month. So it's a 24-hour store, and they had 2 managers. You need at least 1 manager on the floor at all times. So they like ship people in from other stores in the city. And I don't want to get started. I could probably make another 40-minute video just complaining about some of the dumb shit they did. So I don't even want to get into it. But yeah, they're awful. So I left that to go and work at StatsCan during the last census. And that was my plan long term, was to do that contract and then look for other contracts there. But then I started doing this full time. Then my mom got sick before my next opportunity for a contract with them. I actually had to turn down a job opportunity. Like I was supposed to go in for another test to get another job with them, and then because I was down in Niagara, I basically had to say I can't do it. So that's how we got to here, which I have been doing full time since I guess technically since September 2016, but it was really January 2017 where I really decided I was gonna focus on this professionally. Next question is Zero has a few. So Zero says, congratulations on 10k, Corey. Thank you. Only joined recently towards the end of the Air Progressive playthrough. I have enjoyed your content throughout. Now then, glad you're enjoying it. Chandelure or Gengar, which one do you think looks better? I used to be 100% Gengar, but since Reborn, I think I gotta go with Chandelure, which is surprising for me to say. How did you discover EAW? I think I found the trailer. I used to think the trailer was in the Revenge of the Sith DVD, but I think it was actually in Star Wars Battlefront 2 after talking with Evil Bob the Bob about it. But yeah, wherever that trailer was, that's how I found it. We had a family computer that was running Windows 98 at the time, and then I finally got my own computer, which was much better before it came out. That's why I went to the Legacy War forums that I talked about at the start of the video, which is 35 minutes ago. Jesus. But yeah, if you had to rank the 8 main series Star Wars films, where would you place each film? I touched on this a bit earlier, so I won't get into it anymore. Cereal then milk, or vice versa? If I eat cereal, I eat it dry. I do not put milk in cereal. I think it's disgusting, and it makes cereal turn into sludge. I don't like mixing textures very much with food. I don't know. Cereal with milk just seems gross to me. What's your favorite game other than Empire at War? My favorite game is probably, I'm assuming you mean other than Sins as well. So like other than stuff I mod, I'm gonna go with. My favorite game now is probably League of Legends. And before that would have been Halo 3. I played so much Halo 3, and I've played so much League of Legends. They're probably my favorite games. I've been playing a lot of Stardew Valley since I got my Switch too. That's a really good game. I like a lot of games. Games are fun. So next question. Alex Keller, 2 questions. What's your favorite color? And are you still doing Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds? Favorite color? Don't really think I have one. Yeah, I don't really have one. And am I still doing Galactic Battlegrounds? I do want to still do Galactic Battlegrounds. There are a few other things that have gotten in the way of that, but I still do plan to do like each of the campaigns in it at some point. It won't all be grouped together, obviously. We did the Trade Federation one. Was it? No, we did the Wookiee one in the... Yeah, Wookiee and Trade Federation one. And I do want to do the other ones, so we'll get to them at some point. As AQ Asterisk says, yay, my favorite YouTuber has the 10K, now to get the 100,000. Has the 10,000, now to get the 100,000, and then 1 million. That is very optimistic, but thank you, Asterisk. Congrats, we'll keep watching as you keep uploading. Thank you. So if you were to travel, where would you want to go? I do want to travel. I don't know if there's anywhere specific I'd want to go. Rome would be really cool. Like I said, I did history, so basically anywhere with something of historic value, which is most places, I'd find interesting. And anywhere that's just like really nice naturally, I'd like to go. There's a lot of places, so I'd be pretty happy going almost anywhere. I went to Florida when I was a kid. Ooh, that's another embarrassing story that I could tell. Or I guess just a funny story. Less stupid. I don't know if it's really embarrassing. Just a story about when I was a kid. I'll tell it maybe eventually. Even though I probably could have told it in the time that I was talking about telling it. But I went to Florida as a kid with my family. I think it was like 1997, so around the time I jumped off the dresser. And we went to Disneyland, Disney World, whichever Disney is in Florida. And I was terrified of rides, and I still am. So it wasn't really my kind of deal. I'd probably enjoy it. There were still a few rides that went on. I can't do roller coasters. It's roller coasters I hate. But yeah, so that's where I've been. And then I went to Scotland in 2017. I think around this time last year, actually. A year ago, I was in Scotland. So I went to see my friend who, she was my roommate for the last year of university, and then we lived together for 2 years after that. And then she moved out to, I think, she went to teach in Hong Kong, and then she went to Scotland for a while. So when she was in Scotland, I went to visit her. And that was fun. So I guess Hong Kong would actually be my answer to where I want to go, because I have a free place to stay there. If you have to get a job, what would be your ideal job out there? So my ideal job is this, but I guess if I wasn't doing this, I would... I'd like to go back and do my master's and get into historical research and historical writing, or political science again, because I was pretty decent at it, I'd say, and I really enjoyed it. So I feel like that could be a good fit. Otherwise, maybe just anything back at StatsCan. What do you like more, Twitch or YouTube? I like Twitch more for live streaming. I like YouTube more for the VOD, so I think they're both good at what they're focusing on, and I prefer each one for what that is. I don't think there's one that I like more for both. But yeah. And last question, cats or dogs? Both. So I guess kind of like the last question. Yeah. I think we had three family dogs growing up. First one was Bailey that we had when I was really young. I was just trying to think if there was one we had when I was really, really young. But yeah, we had Bailey at the first house. She was a white lab. And I think we ended up having to put her down because she was causing a lot of problems. Then we went to the house we lived at when I moved to university, which I lived in throughout my teens. I think from the time I was like 9 till I moved out for university. And we had 2 dogs there. We had a Saint Bernard named Sadie and a mix of I don't even know what he was. I don't know what his. Yeah, but he was named Chevy. He was really smart. So Chevy was one of the smartest dogs I'd ever seen. Sadie was one of the dumbest. But they were both really good natured, so I really enjoyed them. And I'd love to have a dog again someday, but they're a lot of work, and I live in an apartment, so I can't do that. But cats, we also had a few of those. I'm allergic. I was allergic to cats. I went and spent time with my friends, and they just got a cat, and I wasn't. I didn't have a reaction, so I'm hopefully going to be able to get my own cat. But yeah, I like them both. I don't really have a preference. Next up, Drew Blencow asks, "Here's some excellent channel. Thank you. How have you managed to keep EAW entertaining for yourself for so long?" I'm sorry, I'm going out of frame up by the questions behind my microphone. I'd figure the ground battles alone would have bored you to tears. I reached for the auto-resolve by now. I reached for the auto-resolve everything for all ground battles attitude in my most recent campaign, which is nearing the end. Part of it is that thing I was talking about where I'm now doing it essentially with all of you guys. So that adds a more entertaining element to it. And because I'm always working on it, I'm not really just approaching it from this is a game I'm going to play now. I'm approaching it from I'm going to play this game and I'm going to try to find all the things I want to change about it. So all the changes kind of help keep it fresh. And then seeing all the changes in action is always nice. And like I said, I don't get tired of stuff very easily. So yeah, that on top of everything I said with the why do you like EAW so much question, that's basically it. Next up, D. Williams asks, "Hey Corey, congratulations, thank you. I'm fairly new, but I've had a lot of fun keeping up with your modding and gameplay. I guess my question is, what first drew you into the modding community, and if you're willing, what's your favorite game? If it's since EAW, favorite apart from those." So I kind of answered all of that, but I'll answer the part of what got me into modding, because I sort of answered the start, like how the mod started, but never really answered what got me into it. But basically, the answer is really dumb. I saw what these other mods were planning, and then when they weren't released the day the game was, I was kind of confused. Like, oh, well, where is this stuff? And then I started thinking, oh, well, maybe I'll be able to do it or get something closer to that faster so I can play with it. And that's basically what I got into. And then I started realizing, oh, when you're actually doing it, it takes a lot longer. And I'd only learned about modding like 2 months before. So, yeah. That's basically that. Emperor1733, congratulations, good sir, thank you. What is your favorite GC for Thrawn's Revenge? My favorite Galactic Conquest is Art of War. It has all the, or one of the era progressives. It has all the stuff that we're working on, so it's the most in-depth, I think. There are a few of the era-specific ones that are fairly cool, but I also like having all the factions, because one of my favorite things about Empire at War and other games like that is just watching all the borders change and all the colors on the minimap. So, like, Europa Universalis is really good for that, too. It's basically a border simulator. But yeah, I think it's Art of War. I'm pretty sure it's Art of War. One is priority to make Thrawn's Revenge. We already covered that. And thoughts on the possibility of Thrawn in the Obi-Wan movie. I think a lot of that stuff has changed in the time since this question was asked. I don't think it was ever really confirmed that there'd be an Obi-Wan movie. There was just a lot of speculation. But I'm just gonna talk about, I guess, answer the general possibility of Thrawn being in something live action, which I'd be really excited for. Whether that's in Rian Johnson's new trilogy, or a TV show, or a standalone movie. I just think it would be cool to see Thrawn on some sort of live action thing, even if it's not like a direct adaptation of Thrawn trilogy or the new Thrawn novels. But yeah, so I'd be up for that in whatever context it is. Grandpa Grind. Oh boy, I have a few. I think this is the last question. Or the last set. So, what music or artist do you like? What's your favorite non-Star Wars movie? So I guess I'll answer these in order. What music / artist do you like? I like a lot of music. I guess or stuff in the rock genre would be what I go to most. Tragically Hip, which is a Canadian band that I really like. Hey Rosetta, another Canadian band that I really like. Silver Sun Pickups are alright. The Arkells I also really like. I grew up with my parents playing stuff like Counting Crows and Matchbox 20. Actually, they were my mom's favorite two bands, and I really like both of those as well. we actually went to see them in concert last year. They were playing together, so that was a lot of fun too. But yeah, stuff like that. I guess alt rock, folk rock would be more what that is. But there's some rap that I like, but rap and country are probably the only genres that I don't really listen to. Rap I do listen to a little bit, but that's more variant on or more dependent on the artist. What's your favorite non-Star Wars movie? My favorite movies, I think my three favorite movies in general are The Princess Bride, Godfather 2, which I brought both of them up in that previous question, and Good Will Hunting is probably up there too. So those three: Godfather Part 2, Princess Bride, and Good Will Hunting. I haven't seen any of them in a long time, so I might reevaluate that if I watch them again. But I think those are my answers. What's something you want to say, want us to know about you, but haven't had the right moment to share? I don't know that there's anything specific. I basically just say whatever comes to my mind in my videos, so I don't know that there's anything that I really haven't had the opportunity to talk about. And if there was anything that I really wanted to talk about, I'd probably just make a video about it. And if there's anything you guys want me to talk about, let me know in the comments. But yeah, what is something that viewers say or do that you really like? I really like most kinds of interaction, as long as it's not like super negative. Even like I enjoy constructive criticism. I like when people say that they enjoy the videos. There's a lot of stuff that just seems like, oh, that's not worth saying. But then any kind of feedback you're reading, it's always nice to hear that people are interested in the stuff you're doing. So I really like just generally when people leave comments. Something we say or do that you don't like or is annoying. I don't know that any of it's really annoying, but the one thing that I guess I don't like as much is when people get upset that you're doing things that they wouldn't do, I guess is the best way to say it. So, if I don't find part of the game as valuable or as interesting, and I'm not focusing on it, or I guess the best example of this is Heroes. Like, I don't particularly care about Heroes in Empire at War. I'll use them when they're there. If they die, like the main thing that keeps me from not wanting to get my heroes killed is that it will make other people annoyed. Not so much that I actually care if the heroes are alive. So, and like I understand why people like them. It's the characters they like and everything. But when people, and I don't even care if like people say, "Oh, you lost another one," haha. When people joke about that kind of stuff, that's funny too. But there's some people who just get like actively angry about it, and I don't get it. It's not that serious. Just everybody needs to relax. But that'd be the only thing I can really think of. But I don't want to hog all the question space. So I'll stop there. Well, thank you for your questions, and I think that's it. So this is a really long video. Hopefully, some of you guys have had fun with it on in the background or something, or enjoyed listening to it. If we hit another milestone, maybe at like 15K or 20,000, if we get that far, I'll do another one if people are interested, and I'll hopefully have a better handle on the format so I don't ramble for 50 minutes on 20 questions. But yeah, so thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Bye, everyone.